Millionaire's cruel mom stopped him from marrying plus-size Intern, until she found out who she was and what she'd done. The diamond ring trembled in James Reeves's palm as his mother's venomous words shattered the silence. "You will not disgrace this family by marrying that woman." Before we get deep into the story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you're hooked in and ready to enjoy this story. Because tomorrow, I have another beautiful story to share with you, and I don't want you to miss it for anything. Now, let's get into the story. 3 months earlier, Amanda Sims adjusted her blazer for the third time as she stood before the gleaming glass towers of Reeves Industries. At 26, she carried herself with quiet dignity, despite the whispers that followed her curvy frame through corporate hallways. Her dark skin glowed against the crisp white blouse she'd carefully chosen, and her natural hair was styled in an elegant updo that framed her intelligent brown eyes. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, clutching her portfolio tighter. The summer internship at one of Manhattan's most prestigious investment firms was her shot. Her chance to prove that brilliance came in all sizes and colors. The lobby's marble floors clicked beneath her heels as she approached the reception desk. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow prisms across walls lined with portraits of stern-faced white men in expensive suits. She was definitely not what they were used to seeing here. "Amanda Sims, reporting for the internship program," she announced to the receptionist, whose smile seemed to freeze slightly upon seeing her. "Of course. 32nd floor. Mr. Harrison will orient you." The elevator ride felt eternal. Amanda caught her reflection in the polished steel doors, professional, capable, ready. She'd graduated summa cum laude from Columbia, spoke 3 languages, and had recommendations that made grown men weep. Her size 16 figure and melanin-rich skin didn't diminish any of that. The elevator dinged, and she stepped into a world of glass offices and hushed conversations. Men in $1,000 suits glanced up from their Bloomberg terminals, their gazes lingering a moment too long before returning to their screens. "You must be our new intern." The voice was warm, confident, with just a hint of curiosity. Amanda turned and felt her breath catch. James Reeves stood before her, 6'2" with sandy brown hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that could melt glaciers. His navy suit was perfectly tailored, but it was the genuine warmth in his expression that made her pulse quicken. "Amanda Sims," she managed, extending her hand. His fingers wrapped around hers, warm and strong, lingering just a moment longer than professional courtesy required. "James Reeves, welcome to the madhouse." "As in Reeves Industries?" Her eyes widened slightly. "Guilty as charged, though I prefer to think of myself as the guy who brings donuts to Monday meetings." His grin was boyish, disarming. "Don't let the name on the building fool you. I still have to earn my coffee like everyone else." Amanda felt herself relaxing despite the butterflies doing aerial acrobatics in her stomach. "I'll try to remember that when I'm fetching your coffee, Mr. Reeves." "James," he corrected, his eyes twinkling. "And something tells me you'll be doing a lot more than fetching coffee around here. What do you think makes a great first impression in a professional setting? Share your thoughts below." Over the following weeks, Amanda threw herself into her work with fierce determination. She arrived early, stayed late, and tackled every assignment with the precision of a surgeon. Her financial models were flawless, her market analyses insightful, and her presentations polished to perfection. But it was the quiet moments that began to matter most. When James would stop by her cubicle with a cup of coffee, exactly how she liked it. When he'd linger after meetings to discuss her ideas, his full attention focused on her words rather than her appearance. When he'd defend her suggestions in rooms full of skeptical executives. "Your portfolio restructuring proposal is brilliant," he said one evening as they worked late, the office empty except for the cleaning crew. The city lights twinkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow across his features. Amanda looked up from her laptop surprised to find him so close. She could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her want to lean closer. "You really think so?" "I know so." His voice had dropped to that intimate register that made her skin tingle. "You see patterns others miss. It's remarkable." Their eyes met and held. The air between them crackled with unspoken tension, the kind that made Amanda's heart race and her professional resolve waver. James reached out, his fingers barely grazing her cheek. "Amanda, Mr. Reeves." The cleaning lady's voice broke the spell, and they sprang apart like teenagers caught by their parents. "Just finishing up." James cleared his throat, his cheeks slightly flushed. "We should probably call it a night." Amanda nodded, not trusting her voice. As she packed her things, she could feel his eyes on her, and when she finally looked up, the intensity in his gaze made her knees weak. "Dinner tomorrow?" he asked quietly. "There's this little Italian place I know. Nothing fancy, just good food and better conversation." It wasn't professional. It crossed every line she'd drawn for herself. But the way he looked at her, like she was the most fascinating woman in the world, made her throw caution to the wind. "I'd like that," she whispered. The next evening, Amanda stood before her closet in a panic. What did one wear to dinner with a millionaire? Her wardrobe consisted mainly of professional attire and casual clothes, nothing that screamed date with the boss's son. She finally settled on a deep purple dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, paired with her grandmother's pearl earrings. As she applied her lipstick, she caught her reflection's eye in the mirror. "You're playing with fire, girl," she told herself. But the excitement bubbling in her chest was stronger than her fear. The restaurant was intimate and dimly lit, with checkered tablecloths and the kind of authentic Italian atmosphere that couldn't be manufactured. James was already waiting, having traded his business suit for dark jeans and a button-down that made his eyes look impossibly blue. He stood when she approached, his gaze traveling appreciatively over her figure. "You look stunning." "Thank you." She felt beautiful under his admiring gaze, her curves an asset rather than something to hide. Dinner was a revelation. Away from the office, James was funny, thoughtful, and surprisingly down to earth. He told her about his struggles living up to his father's legacy, his passion for sustainable investing, and his secret dream of opening a foundation for underprivileged youth. "What about you?" he asked, refilling her wine glass. "What's the real Amanda Sims story?" She hesitated, then found herself opening up about growing up in Detroit, her mother's 3 jobs to pay for her education, the scholarships and student loans that made Columbia possible. She told him about the professors who believed in her, the classmates who didn't, and the burning desire to prove that success wasn't reserved for people who looked like him. "You're incredible," he said softly, his hand covering hers on the table. "The way you've fought for everything you have, it's inspiring." His thumb traced circles on her skin, sending shivers up her arm. The restaurant seemed to fade away until there was only him, only this moment, only the connection sparking between them like live wire. "James," she began, but he was already leaning closer, his eyes dropping to her lips. "I know this is complicated," he murmured. "I know there are 1,000 reasons why we shouldn't." "Then don't give me reasons," she whispered, meeting him halfway. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, a question asked and answered. Then his hand cupped her face, and she melted into him, tasting wine and possibility on his lips. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "My place?" he asked, his voice rough with want. Amanda's practical mind screamed warnings, but her heart was already saying yes. James's penthouse apartment was a study in understated luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, modern art that probably cost more than Amanda's annual salary, and a kitchen that belonged in a magazine. But what struck her most was how lived-in it felt, how the expensive furnishings couldn't hide the man who'd left a coffee mug on the marble counter and books scattered across the leather sofa. "Wine," he offered, but his voice was tight with nervous energy. I think I've had enough, Amanda said softly, stepping closer to him. The city lights painted golden streaks across his face, highlighting the desire burning in his blue eyes. Amanda. Her name was a prayer on his lips as he reached for her, his hands settling on her waist. Are you sure about this? Instead of answering, she rose on her tiptoes and kissed him, pouring 3 weeks of stolen glances and electric touches into the contact. He groaned against her mouth, his control finally snapping as he pulled her flush against him. God, you're beautiful, he whispered, his lips trailing down her neck. His hands mapped the curves of her body with reverent touches, as if she were something precious and rare. Amanda had never felt more desired, more cherished. When he lifted her easily in his arms, carrying her toward his bedroom, she felt like a queen rather than the plus-size woman who'd spent years hiding her body beneath loose clothing. Their lovemaking was tender and passionate, a slow exploration of skin and size that left them both breathless and changed. Afterward, as Amanda lay curled against James's chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder, she felt a contentment she'd never experienced before. What are you thinking? He murmured into her hair. That this is dangerous, she admitted. That we're crossing lines we can't uncross. Maybe some lines are meant to be crossed. His arms tightened around her. Maybe some things are worth the risk. They spent the weekend in a bubble of stolen time, making love, talking until dawn, sharing takeout Chinese food while wearing nothing but his shirts. Amanda learned that James collected vintage vinyl records, that he'd wanted to be a teacher before family expectations steered him toward business, and that he had a scar on his knee from falling off his bike at age 7. He discovered that she hummed while she cooked, that she'd read every book in the Detroit Public Library's economics section by age 16, and that she had a laugh that could light up the darkest room. But Monday morning brought reality crashing back. We need to be careful, Amanda said as they rode the elevator to work, standing on opposite sides like strangers. If anyone finds out. I know. James's jaw was tight. But Amanda, this isn't just some fling for me. What we have, it's real. The elevator dinged, and they stepped into the office, immediately falling into their professional roles. But throughout the day, Amanda caught James watching her with an intensity that made her skin burn. When he brushed past her desk, his fingers would graze her hand. When she presented in meetings, his proud smile made her heart sore. They were playing with fire, and everyone could feel the heat. Someone's glowing, teased Jessica, another intern, as they grabbed coffee in the break room. New skincare routine? Amanda forced a laugh. Just getting enough sleep for once. But she could see the speculation in Jessica's eyes, the way conversations stopped when she entered rooms. Office gossip traveled faster than stock prices, and she was walking a tightrope without a net. The inevitable explosion came 3 weeks later. Amanda was working late again, finalizing a presentation for the quarterly board meeting, when she heard the distinctive click of expensive heels on marble. She looked up to see a woman approaching, tall, elegant, with silver hair styled in a perfect chignon, and wearing a Chanel suit that probably cost more than Amanda's car. Even without an introduction, Amanda knew exactly who she was. Victoria Reeves had the same piercing blue eyes as her son, but where James's held warmth, hers were Arctic cold. So you're the little intern who's been occupying my son's attention, Victoria said, her voice cultured and sharp as a blade. Amanda stood slowly, her heart hammering. Mrs. Reeves. I'm Amanda Sims. Oh, I know exactly who you are. Victoria's gaze swept over Amanda's figure with undisguised disdain. The question is, do you know who you're dealing with? I'm not sure I understand. Don't play coy with me, girl. The word girl dripped with condescension. I've seen the way you look at my son, the way you've been throwing yourself at him. Heat flooded Amanda's cheeks. I haven't thrown myself at anyone. James and I work together. Work together? Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Is that what you call seducing the heir to a billion-dollar empire? How convenient that a little nobody from Detroit suddenly develops feelings for one of Manhattan's most eligible bachelors. The words hit like physical blows. Amanda lifted her chin, drawing on every ounce of dignity her mother had taught her. My feelings for James have nothing to do with his money. Please, you think I don't see what this is? A gold-digging little. Victoria caught herself, but the unspoken slur hung in the air like poison. Careful, Mrs. Reeves, Amanda said quietly, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. Your prejudice is showing. Victoria's eyes flashed dangerously. Prejudice? I'm being practical. Do you honestly think someone like you belongs in our world? Look at yourself. You're not even trying to hide what you are. And what am I exactly? Common. Ordinary. A temporary distraction for a man who will eventually come to his senses. Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You're a phase, dear. A rebellion against everything he was raised to value. But phases end, and when this one does, you'll be nothing but an embarrassing memory. Amanda felt tears prick her eyes, but refused to let them fall. James doesn't see me that way. James is thinking with something other than his brain right now. But I assure you, that won't last. Victoria's smile was cruel. Men like my son don't marry women like you. They use them, enjoy them for a while, then move on to someone appropriate. Someone who fits. You don't know your son at all if you think. I know my son better than anyone. And I know this family's reputation won't be destroyed by some overweight intern with delusions of grandeur. Victoria's voice rose, echoing through the empty office. You will end this ridiculous affair, or I will make your life a living hell. I'll have you blacklisted from every firm in the city. I'll destroy any chance you have of a career in finance. Mother, that's enough. Both women turned to see James standing in the doorway, his face a mask of controlled fury. He'd clearly heard enough to understand what was happening, and the disappointment in his eyes as he looked at his mother was devastating. James, darling, I heard what you were doing. His voice was ice cold as he moved to stand beside Amanda, his hand finding hers. And I'm ashamed to call you my mother right now. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. You don't understand what she's doing to you. What she's after. What I understand is that the woman I love is being attacked by someone who's supposed to care about my happiness. James's fingers tightened around Amanda's. Amanda is brilliant, kind, and more genuine than anyone in our so-called social circle. If you can't see that, it says everything about you and nothing about her. The woman you love? Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. James, you cannot be serious. This is infatuation, nothing more. You'll ruin everything your father built, everything our family stands for. Our family stands for success through hard work and integrity. Amanda embodies both of those things more than most people I know. James's jaw was set in a line Amanda recognized. He'd made his decision. I won't let you or anyone else treat her this way. Victoria's face had gone pale, then flushed red with rage. If you continue this relationship, you'll leave me no choice. I'll cut you off, remove you from the company. You'll have nothing. The threat hung in the air like a sword. Amanda felt James's hand tremble slightly in hers, and her heart broke for him. She knew what the company meant to him, how hard he'd worked to prove himself worthy of his father's legacy. James, she said softly, maybe we should. No. His voice was firm. I won't let her bully us apart. But Amanda could see the conflict in his eyes, the war between love and duty that was tearing him apart. Victoria saw it too, and her smile returned, predatory and satisfied. Think carefully, son. Is she really worth losing everything for? What would you do if someone you loved was being threatened by your family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken consequences. Amanda felt her world tilting, the fairy tale crumbling around her. She'd known this moment would come, had felt it approaching like a storm on the horizon. But knowing hadn't prepared her for the reality of watching James struggle between the life he'd always known and the love they'd found. "I need time," James said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I need to think." Victoria's smile widened triumphantly. "Of course, darling. Take all the time you need." Amanda pulled her hand free from James's, the gesture feeling like tearing away part of her soul. "I should go." "Amanda, wait." But she was already walking away, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown to heartbreak. Behind her, she could hear Victoria's satisfied murmur. "You'll thank me for this someday, James. When you're married to someone suitable, someone who belongs in our world, you'll understand that I was only protecting you." Amanda didn't stop walking until she reached the elevator. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of James standing frozen in the hallway, his mother's hand on his arm, whispering poison in his ear. The elevator descended, carrying her away from the man she loved and back to a world where women like her didn't get fairy tale endings. But Victoria Reeves had made one crucial mistake in her character assassination. She'd assumed she knew everything about Amanda Sims, had judged her based on appearance and background without bothering to dig deeper. If she had, she might have discovered that Amanda wasn't just any intern from Detroit. She wasn't just another pretty face trying to climb the social ladder. Amanda Sims had secrets of her own, secrets that would soon turn Victoria's world upside down and prove that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones you underestimate. As the elevator reached the ground floor, and Amanda stepped out into the cool Manhattan night, she made a decision. She wouldn't run. She wouldn't hide. And she certainly wouldn't let Victoria Reeves destroy the best thing that had ever happened to her without a fight. The war had begun, and Amanda was about to show the Reeves family exactly who they were dealing with. The next morning arrived grey and drizzling, matching Amanda's mood as she sat in her small Brooklyn apartment, staring at her laptop screen. The resignation letter cursor blinked mockingly at her, waiting for words that wouldn't come. "Dear Mr. Harrison, please accept this letter as my formal resignation from the internship program at Reeves Industries, effective immediately." She'd typed and deleted the same opening line 17 times. Each attempt felt like admitting defeat, like letting Victoria Reeves win. But what choice did she have? The woman had made her intentions crystal clear. Amanda's presence was a threat to be eliminated, and Victoria had the power to make good on every promise. Her phone buzzed with another text from James. She'd ignored the previous 12. "Amanda, please. We need to talk. Don't let her win like this. Meet me for coffee. Anywhere you want. Just give me a chance to explain. I meant what I said last night. I love you." That last message made her chest tighten with longing and pain. She believed he loved her, had felt it in every touch, every stolen glance, every whispered word in the darkness. But love wasn't always enough to overcome the weight of family expectations and billion-dollar legacies. A knock at her door interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Amanda frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone, and her neighbors rarely bothered with social calls. She peered through the peephole and gasped. James stood in her hallway, looking haggard and desperate. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit wrinkled as if he'd slept in it. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his jaw was rough with stubble. "I know you're in there," he called softly. "Your car's in the parking lot, and Mrs. Chun from 3B told me she saw you come home last night." Amanda pressed her forehead against the door, torn between the urge to throw it open and the need to protect what remained of her heart. "Please, Amanda. Just 5 minutes. If you still want me to leave after that, I will." Against her better judgment, she unlocked the door. James stepped inside, his eyes immediately taking in her modest apartment. The second-hand furniture she'd carefully arranged, the books stacked on every available surface, the framed photo of her and her mother at her Columbia graduation. "You look terrible," she said, crossing her arms defensively. "I feel terrible." His voice was raw. "I haven't slept. Haven't eaten. I keep replaying last night, thinking of all the things I should have said differently. Like what? That your mother was right? That I don't belong in your world? The words came out sharper than she intended, but the wound was still too fresh. Like that I should have told her to go to hell the moment she opened her mouth. James stepped closer, his eyes blazing with intensity. Like that I should have made it clear that you're not going anywhere, that we're not going anywhere, regardless of what she thinks. Amanda's resolve wavered. James, you saw what she's capable of. The threats she made are empty. She's bluffing. Are you willing to bet your entire future on that? Amanda shook her head. Because I'm not willing to let you sacrifice everything for me. Your family's company, your inheritance, your relationship with your mother. None of that matters without you. He reached for her hands, his touch warm and familiar. Amanda, I've spent my whole life trying to live up to other people's expectations. Being the perfect son, the perfect heir, the perfect everything. But with you, I get to just be James. Just be myself. Tears pricked her eyes. And I've spent my whole life fighting to prove I belong in rooms where people look at me and see everything I'm not. I'm tired, James. I'm tired of fighting. Then don't fight alone. His thumbs traced circles on her knuckles. Let me fight with you. Let me fight for you. For a moment, Amanda allowed herself to believe it could be that simple. That love could conquer prejudice and family pressure and the weight of social expectations. But reality crashed back in, cold and unforgiving. What happens when she follows through on her threats? When she has me blacklisted from every firm in the city? When she cuts you off from everything you've worked for? Amanda pulled her hands free. I won't be responsible for destroying your life. You're not destroying anything. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. James's voice cracked with emotion. Amanda, I'm going to marry you. With or without my mother's blessing. With or without the company. With or without a damn penny to my name. I'm going to marry you because I can't imagine a life without you in it. The words hit her like a physical blow. Marriage. He was talking about marriage, about forever, about building a life together despite the obstacles in their path. James, she whispered. I know it's crazy. I know we've only been together for a few weeks. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. He dropped to one knee right there in her tiny living room, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Amanda Sims, will you? Stop. The word tore from her throat. Please just stop. James froze, the ring box trembling in his hands. Amanda, I can't. Tears were streaming down her face now. I can't let you throw your life away for me. I won't be the reason you lose everything that matters to you. You're what matters to me. Today, maybe. But what about tomorrow? What about next year when the novelty wears off and you realize what you've given up? Amanda wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold the pieces together. What happens when you start to resent me for the life you could have had? James stood slowly, his face pale. You really think I'm that shallow? That my feelings for you are just some kind of rebellion? I think you're a good man who's caught between two worlds. And I think your mother knows exactly which buttons to push to make you choose the world you were born into. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths and broken dreams. Finally, James pocketed the ring box, his movements mechanical. So that's it? You're just giving up? I'm being realistic. Amanda's voice was barely above a whisper. People like me don't get fairy tale endings, James. We get by, we survive, we make the best of what we have. But we don't get the prince. Bullshit. The vehemence in his voice startled her. That's your fear talking, not reality. You're brilliant, beautiful, and stronger than anyone I know. You deserve every fairy tale ending in the world. Deserving and getting are two different things. James stared at her for a long moment, his eyes searching her face as if trying to memorize every detail. I'm not giving up on us, Amanda. Even if you are. After he left, Amanda collapsed onto her couch and finally let herself cry. For the love she was walking away from, for the future that felt impossible, for the girl from Detroit who dared to dream too big. Have you ever had to choose between love and security? What would you do in Amanda's situation? Let us know in the comments. The next few days passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Amanda returned to work, throwing herself into projects with desperate intensity. She avoided James as much as possible, taking different elevators, eating lunch at her desk, leaving meetings the moment they ended. But she could feel his eyes on her constantly, could sense his presence even when he wasn't in the room. The other interns had noticed the tension, whispering among themselves about the sudden chill between the boss's son and the star intern. "You okay?" Jessica asked one afternoon, perching on the edge of Amanda's desk. "You seem different lately." "Just focused on work," Amanda replied without looking up from her computer screen. "Right. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with the way James Reeves looks like someone kicked his puppy every time he sees you." Amanda's fingers stilled on the keyboard. "I don't know what you mean." "Come on, Amanda. We all saw the sparks between you two. What happened?" Before Amanda could answer, a commotion near the elevators caught their attention. Victoria Reeves had arrived, sweeping through the office like a queen surveying her domain. Her gaze found Amanda immediately, and her smile was sharp as a knife. "Miss Sims," she called out, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet office. "How lovely to see you again." Amanda stood slowly, aware that every eye in the office was now focused on them. "Mrs. Reeves, I trust you've given some thought to our conversation the other evening." Victoria's tone was pleasant, but her eyes were cold as winter. "I have. And?" Amanda lifted her chin, drawing on reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed. "And I've decided that I won't be intimidated by threats or bullied into abandoning something that makes me happy." Victoria's smile faltered slightly. "I see. How unfortunate. Is it?" "I think it's rather liberating, actually." Amanda stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Victoria could hear. "You see, Mrs. Reeves, you made a mistake when you assumed I was just some gold-digging nobody from Detroit. You didn't bother to do your research." "Research?" Victoria's voice was sharp with suspicion. "About who I really am. About what I've accomplished. About the connections I have that might surprise you." Amanda's smile was serene, but her eyes held steel. "You judged me based on my appearance and my zip code, but you never bothered to look deeper." For the first time since Amanda had met her, Victoria Reeves looked uncertain. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you've underestimated your opponent, Mrs. Reeves. And that's a mistake you're going to regret." Before Victoria could respond, Amanda turned and walked back to her desk, leaving the older woman standing in the middle of the office looking shaken and confused. Jessica stared at her with wide eyes. "Holy shit, Amanda. What was that about?" Amanda sat down and resumed typing, her fingers steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins, just setting the record straight. But inside, her heart was racing. She'd just declared war on one of the most powerful women in Manhattan, and she had no idea if she had the ammunition to win. What Victoria didn't know, what no one at Reeves Industries knew, was that Amanda Sims had been keeping a secret that would change everything once it came to light. The question was, would she have the courage to reveal it before Victoria destroyed everything she cared about? As if summoned by her thoughts, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Time to stop hiding, little sister. The family needs you." Amanda's blood ran cold. After 3 years of silence, they'd found her. And their timing couldn't be worse, or better, depending on how she chose to play this. The game was about to change completely. Amanda stared at the text message until the words blurred together. "Time to stop hiding, little sister. The family needs you." Her hands trembled as she set the phone down, memories she'd buried deep threatening to surface. 3 years. 3 years of carefully constructed anonymity, of using her mother's maiden name, of hiding from a legacy that both defined and terrified her. But now, with Victoria Reeves breathing down her neck and James's heart hanging in the balance, Maybe it was time to stop running. Her phone rang, the caller ID showing a number she'd memorized, but never saved. With shaking fingers, she answered. "Hello, Marcus." "Amanda." Her brother's voice was warm, familiar, tinged with the slight accent that came from years of international business. "It's been too long." "Not long enough." The words came out harsher than she intended. "How did you find me? You're my sister. Did you really think you could disappear forever?" Marcus chuckled, but there was concern beneath the humor. "Besides, your face has been all over the financial news blogs. Rising star intern at Reeves Industries. Very impressive work on the Morrison account, by the way." Amanda's stomach dropped. If Marcus had seen the coverage, then others had too. Her carefully maintained cover was crumbling. "What do you want, Marcus?" "To talk. To see you. To remind you that running away from who you are doesn't change the facts." His voice softened. "Amanda, I know why you left. I know what father said, what he did. But things have changed." "Have they?" Bitterness crept into her voice. Is he suddenly proud to have a daughter who doesn't fit his image of perfection? Does he finally accept that I'm more than just a disappointment in a size 16 dress? "He's dying, Amanda." The words hit her like a physical blow. She gripped the edge of her desk, the office around her suddenly feeling too small, too bright, too real. "What?" "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors give him maybe 3 months." Marcus's voice was steady, but she could hear the pain underneath. "He's been asking for you." Amanda closed her eyes, fighting back tears she'd thought she'd cried out years ago. "I can't. I won't go through that again. He's changed, Amanda. The diagnosis, it put things in perspective for him. He knows he was wrong about you, about everything. He wants to make amends. It's too late for amends." "Is it?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're facing the same kind of prejudice that drove you away from us. Maybe it's time to stop letting other people's narrow minds dictate your life." Before Amanda could respond, she heard footsteps approaching her cubicle. She looked up to see James walking toward her, his face set with determination. Behind him, Victoria followed like a storm cloud, her expression thunderous. "I have to go," Amanda whispered into the phone. "Amanda, wait." She hung up just as James reached her desk. His eyes were red-rimmed but fierce, and when he spoke, his voice carried across the suddenly quiet office. "I've made my decision," he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "And I choose you. I choose us." Victoria's face went white, then red with rage. "James, you cannot be serious. After everything we discussed. After everything you threatened, you mean?" James turned to face his mother, his jaw set in a line Amanda had never seen before. "I'm done letting you control my life, Mother. I'm done pretending that your approval matters more than my happiness." "Your happiness?" Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. "You're throwing away everything for a fling with some nobody in turn." "She's not nobody." James's voice boomed through the office. "She's brilliant, she's kind. She's everything I could ever want in a partner. And if you can't see that, then you're not the woman who raised me." Amanda stood slowly, her heart breaking for the pain she could see in both their faces. "James, please. Don't do this. Don't destroy your relationship with your mother because of me." "I'm not destroying anything," James said firmly. "I'm choosing love over fear, acceptance over prejudice. I'm choosing the woman I want to spend my life with." Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "The woman you want to spend your life with? Do you even know who she really is, James? Have you bothered to ask about her background, her family, her real name?" Amanda's blood turned to ice. Somehow, Victoria had found out. The careful walls she'd built around her identity were crumbling, and there was nowhere left to hide. "What are you talking about?" James looked confused, his eyes darting between his mother and Amanda. "Tell him," Victoria commanded, her smile sharp and victorious. "Tell him who you really are, Amanda. Or should I say, Amanda Blackstone." The name hit the office like a bomb. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Keyboards fell silent, and every eye turned to Amanda with a mixture of shock and recognition. Blackstone, as in Blackstone Industries, the tech empire that rivaled Apple and Google, as in the family that had revolutionized artificial intelligence and made billions in the process, as in the reclusive billionaire patriarch who'd built an empire from nothing and whose children were among the most powerful people in the world. James stared at her, his face pale with shock. Amanda, she wanted to run, wanted to disappear, wanted to be anywhere, but standing in the middle of an office full of people who were now seeing her in an entirely different light. But there was nowhere left to hide. "It's true," she said quietly, her voice barely audible in the sudden silence. "My real name is Amanda Blackstone." The admission hung in the air like a confession. James looked like he'd been slapped, his eyes wide with disbelief, and something that might have been betrayal. You're Richard Blackstone's daughter?" he whispered. Amanda nodded, unable to meet his eyes. "His youngest daughter, yes. But you said you were from Detroit. You said your mother worked 3 jobs. My mother did work 3 jobs. Before she married my father. Before she became part of a world that never accepted her, never accepted me." Amanda's voice grew stronger, fueled by years of suppressed pain. "I am from Detroit, James. That's where I was born, where I spent the first 10 years of my life before my father acknowledged my existence." Victoria's triumphant smile faltered slightly. This wasn't the story she'd expected. "My mother was my father's secretary," Amanda continued, her voice carrying across the silent office. "A brilliant woman from the inner city who caught the eye of a tech mogul. When she got pregnant, he paid her to disappear. It wasn't until I was 10 and my mother was dying of cancer that he finally brought us into his world." James's face was a mask of confusion and hurt. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew this would happen." Amanda gestured to the staring faces around them. "I knew that the moment people found out who my father was, they'd stop seeing me and start seeing dollar signs. They'd wonder if I was slumming it for fun, if my feelings were real, if I was just playing some kind of game. So you lied to me." The accusation hit harder than any of Victoria's insults. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing, Amanda. Or should I call you Miss Blackstone now?" The formal address felt like a slap. Amanda flinched, tears finally spilling over. "Please don't. I'm still me, James. I'm still the same person you fell in love with." "Are you?" His voice was cold, distant. "Because the woman I fell in love with was honest with me. She didn't keep billion-dollar secrets." Victoria stepped forward, sensing victory. "You see, James? This is exactly what I was trying to protect you from. She's been playing you from the beginning, using you for her own entertainment." "That's not true." Amanda's voice cracked with desperation. "James, you have to believe me. My feelings for you are real. Everything between us is real." But James was already backing away, his face closed off and unreadable. "I need time to process this. I need space." He turned and walked away, leaving Amanda standing in the middle of the office with tears streaming down her face and Victoria's satisfied smile burning into her memory. What would you do if someone you loved had kept a major secret from you? Can love survive deception, even with good intentions? Share your thoughts below. The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispered conversations and sideways glances. Amanda tried to work, tried to pretend that her world hadn't just imploded, but it was impossible. Every time she looked up, someone was staring. Every conversation seemed to stop when she walked by. By 5 o'clock, she couldn't take it anymore. She packed her things and headed for the elevator, desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the office. But as the doors opened, she found herself face to face with a man who looked like an older, more polished version of herself. "Hello, little sister." Marcus Blackstone stood in the elevator, wearing a perfectly tailored suit and a gentle smile. At 35, he had their father's sharp intelligence, but their mother's kind eyes. He was everything Amanda remembered and more. Successful, confident, and radiating the kind of power that came from being born into one of the world's wealthiest families. Marcus. She stepped into the elevator, acutely aware of the curious stares from her co-workers. "What are you doing here?" "Damage control," he said simply as the doors closed. "Your cover being blown made the news. Father's people are in crisis mode, trying to figure out how to spin this." "There's nothing to spin. I'm not part of the family business anymore, remember? You never stopped being part of the family, Amanda. No matter how far you ran, or how much you tried to reinvent yourself." Marcus studied her face with concern. "You look tired." "I am tired. Tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending to be someone I'm not." "Then stop." The elevator reached the ground floor, and they stepped out into the marble lobby. Marcus guided her toward a black town car waiting at the curb, complete with driver and tinted windows. "I can't just stop, Marcus. You don't understand what it's like." "Don't I?" He opened the car door for her. "Do you think being Richard Blackstone's son has been easy? Do you think I haven't faced my own share of people who only see dollar signs when they look at me?" Amanda slid into the leather seat, inhaling the familiar scent of expensive cologne and new car smell. "It's different for you. You fit the mold. You're everything father wanted in an heir. And you're everything he needed in a daughter, even if it took him too long to realize it." Marcus settled beside her as the car pulled into traffic. "Amanda, he's proud of you. What you've accomplished at Columbia, your work at Reeves Industries, he's been following your career. He's been spying on me, you mean? He's been loving you from a distance because you wouldn't let him do it up close." Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "I know he hurt you. I know his reaction when you gained weight in college was cruel and unforgivable. But people change, Amanda. Even stubborn old billionaires." Amanda stared out the window at the city rushing by. "It's too late, Marcus. Even if I wanted to reconcile with father, even if I wanted to reclaim my place in the family, it wouldn't matter. I've lost the only thing that really mattered to me. The Reeves boy." She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Tell me about him." So she did. As the car wound through Manhattan traffic, Amanda found herself pouring out the whole story. How she'd fallen for James, how his mother had threatened her, how she'd been too afraid to reveal her true identity until it was too late. Marcus listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions, but mostly just letting her talk. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "You know," he said finally, "Father always said that the measure of a person isn't where they come from or how much money they have. It's what they do when faced with impossible choices." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you have a choice to make, little sister. You can keep running, keep hiding from who you are and what you're capable of. Or you can stand up and fight for what you want." The car pulled up in front of Amanda's apartment building, but she made no move to get out. "What if he can't forgive me for lying to him?" "Then he's not the man you thought he was," Marcus said simply. "But if he is, if he's half the man you've described, then maybe it's time to show him exactly who Amanda Blackstone really is." As Amanda finally stepped out of the car, Marcus rolled down the window. "Amanda? Father's flying in tomorrow. He wants to see you." She turned back, her heart clenching. "I don't know if I'm ready." "You don't have to be ready. You just have to be brave." Marcus smiled, and for a moment, she saw the big brother who used to sneak her cookies when their father wasn't looking. "And if there's one thing I know about my little sister, it's that she's the bravest person I've ever met." As the car pulled away, Amanda stood on the sidewalk feeling like she was standing at a crossroads. Behind her lay the safe, small life she'd built for herself. Ahead lay uncertainty, confrontation, and the possibility of either redemption or devastating loss. But for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't running. It was time to remind the world, and herself, exactly who Amanda Blackstone was capable of being. The next morning, Amanda stood before her closet with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Gone were the modest blazers and conservative dresses she'd used to blend into the background. Instead, she pulled out a piece she'd kept hidden in the back, a stunning emerald green dress that hugged her curves like it was made for her, paired with the diamond earrings her father had given her for her 21st birthday. Today, she wasn't hiding anymore. The Blackstone Industries jet had landed at Teterboro at dawn, and Amanda knew her father was waiting at the Plaza Hotel, probably pacing his suite and rehearsing the speech he'd been planning for 3 years. But first, she had other business to attend to. She arrived at Reeves Industries looking like the billionaire heiress she'd been born to be. The security guard did a double take, the receptionist stammered a greeting, and conversations stopped as she walked through the lobby with the confidence of someone who owned half the world. Because technically she did. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt different this time. She wasn't the nervous intern trying to prove herself. She was Amanda Blackstone, daughter of one of the most powerful men in tech, and she had business to conduct. Victoria Reeves was in her son's office when Amanda arrived, no doubt continuing her campaign to poison James against her. Through the glass walls, Amanda could see them in heated discussion, Victoria gesturing dramatically, while James sat behind his desk looking haggard and defeated. Amanda knocked once and entered without waiting for permission. "Mrs. Reeves, James. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Victoria spun around, her eyes widening as she took in Amanda's transformation. Gone was the modest intern she'd dismissed so easily. In her place stood a woman who radiated power and confidence, every inch the billionaire heiress. "What are you doing here?" Victoria demanded, but her voice lacked its usual venom. "I'm here to set the record straight," Amanda said calmly, her gaze moving to James. He was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read: surprise, hurt, and something that might have been longing all mixed together. "I think you've done enough damage," Victoria snapped, but Amanda held up a hand. "Actually, Mrs. Reeves, I don't think you understand the situation you've created." Amanda's voice was silk over steel. "You see, when you threatened to have me blacklisted from every firm in the city, you made a crucial error in judgment." "And what was that?" Amanda smiled, and it was sharp as a blade. "You assumed I needed this job. You assumed I was some desperate girl from Detroit who would crumble under pressure." She stepped closer, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "But I'm not just any girl from Detroit, am I? I'm Amanda Blackstone. And my family doesn't just work in finance, we own it." The color drained from Victoria's face as the implications hit her. You're threatening me?" "I'm educating you," Amanda corrected. Blackstone Industries has holdings in 17 different investment firms, including 3 of Reeves Industries' biggest competitors. We have the power to make or break companies with a single phone call. She paused, letting that sink in. "But I'm not here to threaten you, Mrs. Reeves. I'm here to offer you a choice." James finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Amanda, what are you doing?" She turned to him, her heart clenching at the pain in his eyes. "I'm fighting for us, James. The way I should have from the beginning. By using your family's money and power?" There was disappointment in his voice. "By becoming exactly what my mother accused you of being?" "No." Amanda's voice was firm. "By refusing to let anyone, including you, make me ashamed of who I am." She moved closer to his desk, her eyes never leaving his. "I didn't tell you about my family because I was afraid you'd see me differently. I was afraid you'd think I was playing games or slumming it for fun. But I was wrong to hide it from you, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you lied to me." "You're right. It doesn't." Amanda's voice was steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "But maybe this will help you understand why." She pulled out her phone and showed him a photo, a newspaper clipping from 3 years ago. The headline read, "Blackstone heiress enters rehab after father's cruel comments about weight." James's eyes widened as he read the article. "Amanda, my father held a press conference to announce a new health initiative for his company," Amanda said quietly. A reporter asked about family involvement, and he said, and I quote, My daughter would be a poor spokesperson for health and wellness, given her obvious struggles with self-control. Her voice cracked slightly. He said that in front of 50 reporters, James. About his own daughter. The silence in the room was deafening. Even Victoria looked uncomfortable. I gained 30 pounds my senior year of college, Amanda continued. I was stressed, depressed, struggling with the pressure of living up to the Blackstone name. Instead of getting help, instead of supporting me, my father publicly humiliated me. So I left. I changed my name back to my mother's maiden name, moved to New York, and started over. James was staring at the photo, his jaw tight with anger. He said that about you? His own daughter. The tech world is brutal, James. Image is everything. And I didn't fit the image of what a Blackstone should be. Amanda took a shaky breath. So when I met you, when you looked at me like I was beautiful and brilliant and worthy of love, I couldn't risk losing that. I couldn't risk you seeing me the way my father did. Amanda. James stood slowly, his eyes soft with understanding. I would never. I know that now, she said quickly. But then, I was so broken, so convinced that I was unlovable, that I couldn't take the chance. Victoria, who had been silent during this exchange, finally spoke. This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the facts. You're still not suitable for my son. Amanda turned to her, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone born to command. Mrs. Reeves, let me be very clear about something. I am Amanda Blackstone, heir to a fortune that makes your family's wealth look like pocket change. I have degrees from Columbia and Harvard. I speak 4 languages, and I've been groomed since childhood to run a global empire. Her smile was razor-sharp. If anyone in this room isn't suitable, it's your son for me. Victoria's mouth fell open in shock. But here's the thing, Amanda continued, her voice softening as she looked at James. Suitability has nothing to do with love. I don't love James because he's wealthy or powerful, or comes from the right family. I love him because he's kind and funny, and sees the best in people. I love him because he makes me want to be brave. She turned back to Victoria. And if you can't see that your son is an extraordinary man who deserves to be loved for who he is, not what he represents, then you don't deserve to be part of our lives. Have you ever had to choose between family approval and following your heart? What would you sacrifice for true love? Let us know in the comments. James moved around his desk, stopping just inches from Amanda. You said our lives. I did. Amanda's heart was pounding, but her voice was steady. Because I'm not running anymore, James. I'm not hiding from who I am or apologizing for taking up space in the world. I'm Amanda Blackstone, and I'm in love with James Reeves, and I don't care who has a problem with that. Even if it means losing everything. I already lost everything when I lost you, she whispered. Nothing else matters. James reached up and cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she didn't realize had fallen. I'm sorry I walked away. I'm sorry I let my hurt and confusion override everything I know about you. I'm sorry I didn't trust you enough to tell you the truth from the beginning. We both made mistakes, James said softly. But I meant what I said yesterday. I choose you, Amanda. I choose us. Billionaire heiress or intern from Detroit, I don't care. I just want you. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. Well, Victoria said stiffly, I suppose congratulations are in order. Amanda and James turned to look at her, surprised by the grudging acceptance in her voice. Mrs. Reeves, Amanda said carefully. Victoria sighed, suddenly looking older and more fragile. I may not like this situation, but I'm not stupid. You've made your choice, James, and clearly nothing I say will change your mind. She looked at Amanda with something that might have been respect. And you, Miss Blackstone, have made it clear that you're not going anywhere. No, ma'am. I'm not. Then I suppose we'll have to find a way to coexist. Victoria's smile was thin but genuine. For James's sake, if nothing else. It wasn't a warm welcome, but it was a start. Later that afternoon, Amanda stood outside the Plaza Hotel, gathering her courage for the conversation she'd been avoiding for 3 years. Marcus was waiting in the lobby, and when he saw her, his face lit up with pride. "You look like yourself again," he said, kissing her cheek. "I feel like myself again." Amanda took a deep breath. Is he ready for this? He's been ready for 3 years. The question is, are you? Amanda nodded, and together they rode the elevator to the penthouse suite. When the doors opened, she saw him, Richard Blackstone, tech mogul and billionaire, looking smaller and frilier than she remembered. The cancer had taken its toll, but his eyes were still sharp, still intelligent. "Amanda." His voice was rough with emotion. "My beautiful girl." "Hello, father." They stared at each other across the elegant sitting room, 3 years of hurt and misunderstanding hanging between them like a wall. "I'm sorry," he said finally, the words seeming to cost him everything. "I'm sorry for what I said, for how I treated you, for making you feel like you had to disappear from your own life." "I'm sorry too," Amanda said quietly, "for running away instead of fighting, for letting your words define me for so long. You were never the problem, Amanda. I was so focused on image, on what people would think, that I forgot what really mattered." Richard's eyes filled with tears. "You're brilliant and strong, and everything I could have hoped for in a daughter. I should have been proud of you, not ashamed." "I know." Amanda moved closer, her own tears falling freely. "And I forgive you." When they embraced, it felt like coming home. 6 months later, Amanda stood in the bridal suite at the Plaza Hotel, surrounded by her bridesmaids and feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. Her wedding dress was a custom creation that celebrated every curve, every inch of the body she'd learned to love again. "You ready for this?" Marcus asked, appearing in the doorway in his tuxedo. "More than ready." Amanda smiled, taking his arm. "Let's go get me married." The ceremony was held in the hotel's ballroom, decorated with thousands of white roses and fairy lights. As Amanda walked down the aisle on her father's arm, he'd insisted on giving her away despite his weakened condition. She saw James waiting for her at the altar, his face radiant with love and joy. Victoria sat in the front row, and while her smile was still somewhat stiff, she was there. It was progress. When Amanda reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and whispered, "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart." The ceremony was beautiful, filled with laughter and tears and promises of forever. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, James kissed her with such passion that the entire ballroom erupted in applause. At the reception, as they swayed together during their first dance, James whispered in her ear, "No more secrets?" "No more secrets," Amanda promised. "Just us, just love, just forever." "I can live with that," James murmured, spinning her around the dance floor. As the evening wore on, Amanda looked around at the faces surrounding them. Her father, weak but smiling, Marcus, beaming with pride, even Victoria, who had actually complimented Amanda's dress. She thought about the scared girl who had run away 3 years ago, convinced she was unworthy of love. That girl was gone, replaced by a woman who knew her worth, who fought for what she wanted, who refused to let anyone make her feel small ever again. What's the most important lesson you've learned about self-worth and fighting for love? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. What are you thinking about? James asked, following her gaze around the room. Just how far we've come. How different things could have been if we'd let fear win. But we didn't, James said firmly. We chose love. We chose each other. And we're going to keep choosing each other every day for the rest of our lives. Amanda smiled, her heart full to overflowing. Promise. Promise, James said, sealing it with a kiss that tasted like champagne and forever. As they danced under the glittering chandeliers, surrounded by family and friends, Amanda knew that sometimes the best fairy tales were the ones you had to fight for. Sometimes love meant standing up to bullies, facing your fears, and refusing to let anyone convince you that you were anything less than extraordinary. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, you got to live happily ever after.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.